This is some pretty bad technical difficulties that I have not run into before. Hello. Hello, Logic community. It seems my second monitor is being difficult today, but let's cue some music, shall we? Yeah. Hello. Hello. I'm so sorry, everybody, for the delay and for the technical difficulties. It's the craziest thing. I'm pretty good at technology here, but man, I hit the go live button and then my computer froze. How about that? But hello, everyone. Thanks for bearing with me amidst the chaos over here in the Logic studio. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. So much so that I had to get out and ride my bike. So my hair is maybe a bicycle helmet hair, but that's all right. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Hope you're ready for an amazing show. It looks like everything's back on track here. Everything's back on track. Who's here today? Oh my god, look at these names. There's just so many people. You guys are here before me. Alan Letary, David Kreitz, Michael Land. I'm not going to be able to get through all these names before we start. Fred Warren is in the chat. Joey Graziani, Andy Milkus, Sinan Viral. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Oh, we have a great show. And it's time. Look at that. I set up my keyboard shortcuts to switch the scene, so I'm ready for this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. This is Logic Live episode 118. It's going to be fantastic as always, but before we get started, we have some messages from our sponsor. Okay, hello. This episode of Logic Live is brought to you by AJA together with Flame since 2006. 2006. Hot Spring is the future of VFX outsourcing. You can work with them to connect you with other artists from around the world to help you get your projects done. You can find them at thehotspring.com. If you need Boris FX plugins, you can save 15% on any Boris FX product standalone or subscription with the code LOGIC-2023 at checkout. If you enjoy swagging out with Logic Swag, we have a merch store with an excellent collection of hoodies, shirts, mugs, stickers, and more. We've added a few new exciting items recently: Logic notebooks, AirPod cases, iPhone and Android cases. And if the Logic notebook sounds exciting to you, well, you are in luck for another week in a row because that's what we're giving away at the end of the show. So as long as you're registered for the show today, you might walk away with a lovely notebook. You can find the merch store on the Logic.tv website. Thank you to all of the patrons who are subscribed on Patreon. Here is our up-to-date Patreon list. It just keeps growing. Big shout out to everyone on the screen here. The support is what allows Logic Live to happen and what allows the Logic community to thrive and grow. We are up to 163 patrons as of this week. Big thank you to everyone who subscribed and making this Logic community that I'm happy to be a part of a reality. If you'd like to support what we're doing here on Logic, you can get access to some exclusive content, such as the post-show Q&A, where in this case, after this show, we're heading over to Zoom to chat with some more with Fred and Stephane, which is where we often dig deeper into the nitty-gritty of the update, since the body of the show, really, we only have time to cover the new features and what Fred and Stephane have to show us. Maybe we'll have time for some questions in the middle, but the real questions happen in the patrons chat. So head on over to patreon.com/LogicTV and support for as little as $5 a month. We have a forum, and it's called the Logic Forum. Obligatory shout out to Dark Mode. Here you can ask questions, have conversations, and learn more about what others in the community have to say. Sometimes I like to showcase my favorite weekly posts. This week I had two that really stood out to me. A post on the left is from Coolshoff Effect, who managed to convert the Logic famous object obliterator made known by Renee Tin into a Matchbox shader with some very useful controllers. I haven't tested it out myself, but my coworker Austin Campbell gave it a shot and used it on a job last week, and it seemed to do the trick. So amazing work there. The post I have up on the right is post I have up on the right is actually very relevant to today's show. It is Brian Bailey's Mac benchmark test for 2024 versus 2024.1. And the numbers are looking very, very, very good. It's very exciting news for everyone because who doesn't want to have shorter render times? The answer is no one, of course. There are a lot of other posts, but these two caught my fancy. Of course, the forums go hand in hand with our Discord server. That's where you'll find your day-to-day flame chats, questions, comments, hangout, the more conversational arm of the Logik community, and it's a great way to ask a one-off question or have a quick chat. Join the conversation today and click the Discord link at forum.logik.tv and come on over. Speaking of coming on over to Logik Academy if you haven't already, not to be confused with Logik Academy Pro. Logik Academy are our free tutorials here on YouTube by contributors who have been very generous with their time and posted about a cool idea or something they're knowledgeable or passionate about. We have quite the list up here. Our most recent ones at the bottom right are from Sinan Viral, Flame's Particle System, and Graziele Gandolfi's Intro to Matchbox Shaders. There are almost too many to say because the list goes on. The topics are many and an excellent variety. If any of these sound cool, check them out because they are all available for free on the Logik YouTube channel. Big shout out and thank you to Autodesk for sponsoring these videos. And speaking of Autodesk, Flame 2024.1 is out as of Wednesday this week. And there is no better segue than that because that is why we are all here today. And that's when I switch to the full screen view. Yes, hello. Thank you all for being here. I got to take a moment to relax after the chaos that is a complete computer freeze failure. But thank you all for being here. I'm very excited to be hosting this episode because my guests today are legends. If you have been to a few Logik Lives or if you're no stranger to Flame, then you know my guests very well. But if you are new to Flame, then you are in for a wonderful treat because my guests today are so gracious with their time, they're so knowledgeable, and they're responsible for shaping the product that we all know and love. I would love to welcome my guests, Stephane Labrie and Fred Warren. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello. And Stephane is coming from the wonderful world of Canada, outside Canada, not to be confused with Fred's inside Canada.
Yes.
I hope you all are having a great day today. Clearly, it's as beautiful out there as it is over here because you wouldn't be outside.
Yeah, it's a great day today to be outside. I mean, for you and being with you guys is spending a Sunday afternoon talking about the new baby. In fact, raised last week, so it's a great moment for us to share you what we've done, and hopefully, that will positively affect your workflows with our products.
I sure hope so. And before we jump in too far, just for those who are curious or want to know, I would love just a super duper quick, like little one-off, just maybe we'll start with Stephane because you're on the left. Just how long you've been with the company and what you're responsible for on the dev side.
Yeah, so I joined in 1997, so at that time we were still Discrete Logic, so that was before, Autodesk acquired Discrete in 1999, and at that time I was part of the quality assurance team, coming from production and playing with the smoke and fire at that time, and then I moved into leadership of the QA team, and later, since I complained, I guess, too much, I was given the responsibility to design the product, and then these days I'm taking care of everything related to technologies, working with technology partners to bring Flame to where it should be as being highly interactive, finishing visual effects application, grading application, and so on for the digital world, and ensuring that we can move the application to newer places, new workflows, and adapt to the ever-changing technologies we are living in right now.
Well, it's hard to argue with that. That's wonderful. Thank you for that. And how about you, Fred? Little introduction.
Yeah, on my side, actually, Stephane hired me in 99, so it's been 24 years. And when he went to design, he actually brought me with him maybe a year or two later to assist him on working on Smoke. And we've been working together for that many years now. And these days, I'm more responsible, maybe if you could get out the tool side. So that's quite large, but it's everything that goes from batch to the tool themselves to the timeline tab, everything that is not, let's say, data management and infrastructure, which is what Stephane is looking for.
That's great. And I think I don't know how unique it is to have two different, I think product owners is the title there, but I have to believe it's so useful so that each of you can focus, laser focus on your domain and ensure that the technology remains on track while that doesn't compromise the new features of the tool sets. And I think whoever came up with that, it's great, and it's wonderful that both of you are able to do such a great job.
Thank you.
But okay, let's get right into it. This past Wednesday, we saw the release of Flame 2024.1. Stephane here is going to start us off with everything that he's responsible for that release. So Stephane, take it away. I might have to fix my guest screen.
Thank you.
Here.
No problem. So
We're
you
good?
should be able to see, yes, you should be able to see my slides. So I have some slides talking about the overall technologies and things we have done to the product, and then later Fred will show you in application what we've done. But before talking about update 1, because yes, we released this update last week, but we also released a bunch of service packs, which hopefully will fix the issues that some of you reported lately, either to our support team or even on Logik. So 2022.3.2, 2023.3.2, and 2024.2.0.2 has been released, fixing general performance issues found on our Linux products. So you might have seen threads on Logik about the frame dropping when doing long playback, or VRAM management when you have very loaded GPU pipeline, or even micro freeze. So these issues have been fixed in these service packs, and we are quite happy to be able to provide these fixes in the various production, because we know not everybody will upgrade to update 1. It's even if we released last week, but not production pipeline. Not all production pipeline are ready to upgrades. So, and we recognize that. We know that some pipeline are slower to update than others. So that's why we went back to 2022.3 to fix these issues. So please report back on Logik or any outlets that you can get back to us how better are these versions.
That's amazing that you've done that. It's not too common that you retroactively add in these service packs, is it? It's not every version, huh?
No, you're right, because there's a cost, right? I mean, you need to validate all these to make sure that you really fix these things. So you have to go back in time, and it would have been easier for us to keep it in update 1. But I mean, we know our customers, we know the various pipelines. So from the small studio to the large multi-country infrastructure facilities, where sometimes they cannot upgrade easily, either because let's say a Python version is not compatible with their backend tool, or just because their artists are too busy to upgrade. Sometimes we've seen projects, taking 2, 3, 4 years. So they have to stick with the version they have because, it's safer. That's why we decided to produce these versions, so then they can easily. So these versions, by the way, when you're going to install these builds, when they are fully compatible with the previous service pack or updates on your system, so you don't have to archive, you don't have to back up anything. It's an easy upgrade. They don't require, let's say, a DKU update, so it's very a software add-on you're going to install in your workstation, and then that's going to be, a walk in the park to get these fixes. By the way, I'm highlighting here that these issues have been fixed on Linux. We also have the counterpart macOS version of all the products, so facilities very often want to keep the same version for all their production gears, and you're going to be able to do that. So go to your account on manager.autodesk.com, and you're going to be able to download these service packs. And of course, please report back if you see better improvement for these performance issues that we fixed.
That's great. And I know that on your guys' end, micro freeze is almost a bad word that you've been hearing for a number of years now. And so it's wonderful to see it on this list of things that are addressed.
This one was not easy to narrow down. It was not easy to replicate sometimes. It required some conditions. And of course, I mean, when you report the problem, well, you might not remember what you've done for the last 15 minutes because, very often in Flame, we work quite fast, right? We do many things. So it was a big challenge, but we were, able to work with many customers who reported some, we found some pattern, and then we were able to replicate and bring back this issue, which has been, in fact, looked at not only by us, but also with some technology partner we work with, because as you know, Flame is an ecosystem of different technologies. There's the software, the hardware, there's also the driver for the graphic card, there's also the video card and all these things, right? So it's really, there are many ways, there are many locations where issues can happen. So that's why working closely with these partners is fundamental, and also working closer with you guys to be able for us to know how you work is a cornerstone. Update 1. I've put a quick link on the screen if you want to see the press release we produced last week, which highlight what we've done in update 1. But yes, today, I mean, we're going to go through all these very easily. As far as hardware and configuration, so it's an easy upgrade. So as we know very often, update 1 is the first version of a new release stream that larger studio will install. So summertime, is a little bit quiet compared to spring, and they want to ensure that they have the time to experience the 2024 release. And update 1, as I said, it's a simple and easy upgrade to move. So as far as operating system, that's the same thing as what we had for the 2024 release. So Rocky 8.5 and 8.7. So for the one of you who missed probably our 2024 presentation in April, CentOS is no more supported in our products with the 2024 release stream. So you have to move on with Rocky Linux. So on our system requirement page, you can find the ISO and everything you need to be able to move to 8.5 or 8.7. So for current 8.5 Rocky Linux 8.5 users, we have an upgrade script that will move you to 8.7 if you need be. If you need to be on the latest security patches and so on, so you're gonna be able to do that. On macOS, we always support the latest 3 operating system, from macOS 11, 12 to 13. So Apple released last week macOS 13.5, and we strongly recommend, if you are on Apple Silicon, to really install the latest dot release for macOS 13. So they bring fixes for stability and also for performance. So it's a good idea. And there was a thread on Logik some time ago about somebody who was still on macOS 12, and then he got some performance problem, which has disappeared when he moved to 13. So that's a good idea. Heads up for next year major release. So macOS 11 that you see on the screen will not be supported with the next major release. So some might think that it's 2025, right? The next major release, since as you probably heard at the June event from Apple, that macOS 14 is coming. So we're going to roll in later in the year macOS 14, and then of course we're going to remove macOS 11 next year. I would, talking about macOS 14, I would strongly recommend that you wait that your favorite application manufacturers tells you to upgrade. So many people, very often, the first day that an operating system is available will upgrade. And I've seen, not for our products, but I've seen for other products like nightmares, because application might not be supported. So yes, wait that your technology provider tells you when to upgrade. Sometimes it's fun to get the latest bell and whistle, but if we're not done with validating, well, that's a shame. But very often, and most of the time, like it happened with macOS 13, the day of the release, we were ready to announce that we were supporting. So it's, but yes, look at the news to make sure that your technology is supported on the new operating system. For update 1, there's a DKU 18.1 available. It brings all the driver security patches, So the NVIDIA P6000 become, and with the 2024 release, became the minimum certified graphic card. The KU 18.1 adds the latest NVIDIA driver, so 525 11604. So that brings all the fixes from NVIDIA, and of course will work with your third-party application on your Linux workstation. There was an issue with the KU18 related to HFS file system not being visible after the upgrade from 8.5 to 8.7 on. So that has been fixed with the KU18.1. And another heads up related to the Z840, which is a great workstation, which dates a bit, but so it's still supported with our product right now, but will no more be a supported configuration with the next major release. So it might be a good time for you to think about your option, which I'm going to talk to you right now. So we qualified the multiple new offering, and if you had the chance to be with us at NAB, I had the great pleasure to be at the HB booth showing Flame 2024 on the HP Z8 Fury NVIDIA RTX 6000 88 generation kit, which is a great kit. I would recommend it if you're looking for a new configuration. So this qualification has been validated with 2024. There's also configuration with the previous Ampere generation of graphic card, or the A5000, A6000. So you have 3 choices of a qualified configuration with this card, and you can also install a single or dual graphic card if you want to do background reactor. So with dual GPU, you can do that. There's a link on the screen if you are curious to know more. about this configuration, which is the Intel single socket configuration, which is a great configuration from the to run Flame products on. And again, for the one who were lucky enough to be in lovely Las Vegas in spring, well, Fred, in fact, was spending some of his days at the Dell booth showing the 7865 Thunder, the AMD processor, the Threadripper Pro, which has been qualified with the A5000, A6000 previous generation, and that has been qualified with update 1. So the config check has been updated with that. We are working closely with Dell, so they will be qualifying the 6000 ADA generation card very soon. So look at their website, which there's a link on this page if you want to have the latest and greatest toys from our technology partner here. And of course, you can build a single or a dual graphic card configuration to run our products on this thing. You might be like Randy, one of the lucky ones using the P620 from Lenovo. And Lenovo has qualified the RTX 6000 ADA. So again, another great configuration. In this one, you would be limited to a single graphic card. So, but yes, if you have the workstation, you want to move to a better graphic card, it's a good moment to do that with the latest release. And there's a link on the page if you want to know more about this config. For the one of you working in environment where you have NAS or multi application workstation in a work group, so we qualified the latest fast frame 4th generation card from Atto. So this 100 gig card, allows you to move frame quite fast around the facility, and it has been qualified on Rocky Linux 8.7. So it's a great card. Again, if you are into fast collaboration with your partner in your facility using NAS or shared file system, well, you're going to be able to use this technology with our latest product. macOS, we don't perform system qualification like we do for Linux, because macOS ecosystem is quite easy to get. You don't have a multiplicity of graphic cards, CPU, GPU, and so on. So it's quite easy to get. So as you have seen in the June keynote from Apple, they've added the Mac Pro on Apple Silicon. So the whole family is running on the Mac Pro. So if you want to run our products, we provide minimum system requirements. So you need this amount of map of RAM and VRAM for the Apple Silicon infrastructure. So then the application will be running as it should. So have a look at the page on this thing. If you have a lesser configuration, well, you're still going to be able to install Flame, but you might not get the optimal, speed environment with the workstation or the laptop, which in some workflows might be okay if you need to conform some XML or even do some basic thing in Flare. Well, sometimes it could be okay, but don't expect to be able to have the full performance as what we provide on our minimum system requirement. But at least the application will install, and you're going to be able to play with it, either to learn it or to do lesser complicated or power requirement job with the application. Cloud Workflow has also been updated. So we have a new AWS-based AMI, which stands for Amazon Machine Image, which is the operating system and the driver you need to deploy instances on the cloud. So Rocky Linux 8.7 with DKU 18.1, there's an updated graphic driver, which is in sync with the one that is part of what we have for the workstation. It's really important to use our products with the qualified NVIDIA driver, either on the cloud or on the workstation, because we qualified these drivers, right? We work closely with NVIDIA to ensure that everything you were able to render, and this is something I explained in the 2024 presentation we gave in April. So that's important, not to go on NVIDIA website and download any driver, because there's also the 535 stream these days, which, as we have seen up to now, is not optimal for our product. So please stick with the qualified driver and your life will be super cool. We also updated to the latest technologies from AWS, so CDI, Elastic Fabric Adapter, Elastic Network Adapter, and we qualified our products with the HP Anywhere 23.6 and NiceDCV 2023. So you're going to be able to use those remote display tools with your application, either on the cloud or on-premise. And just a reminder, because I talked about CDI, which stands for Cloud Digital Interface, it's the way you can provide high quality up to 444 RGB 12-bit stream for your reference monitor. You can monitor these streams either via Streambox or via ColorFront applications. So you have many options to enjoy your content and have your remote producer looking at your work in high quality for them to enjoy the work you've done on their production. At the end of June, and this is something we talked about last year when we introduced Flame on the cloud. So you really need to make sure that you have access to the technology, and not all data center are made equal, and that depends of the region you are in the world, and not all region have the AWS G5 or G4 instances we qualified Flame on. So we work closely with AWS to ensure that our customers can use their technology to be able to deploy our products. So they have added four new regions. So US East with Ohio, so Asia Pacific with some cities, as you can see on the screen, Middle East and South America. So you're going to be able to have the G5 instances and use them in these regions, which is great because these are the latest and greatest technology on which you can run our products on AWS. I would say that one of the biggest feature in the update one is really the move from OpenGL to Vulkan and Metal, which are the graphics framework we work with, and that is. Just like when we do invisible visual effects, and we are quite happy about that. Well, that feature is something you're not going to see in the application, but you're going to feel. It's a long-standing project. We talked about that last summer. We had some of our developers talking about the move from OpenGL, which is a technology dating from the Silicon Graphics days. So for the younger of you who might not remember, well, very, very, very long time ago when we joined Fred and myself, Discrete Logic. Well, we were deploying our products on Silicon Graphics supercomputers. So these big computers were fast at that time compared to desktop products. And over the years, of course, the gaming industry and the mobile industry helped, making democratizing, in fact, supercomputer technologies. So yes, we had to move from OpenGL to get more performance to be, of course, in line with the major operating system and their graphic subsystem. So what you're going to see with update 1, in fact, is in some configurations, some snappier user interface. So when you're going to move into the application, because the application is drawn through the graphic layer, so in some cases, you'll see that more snappier. You will also see playback performance, and you will also see rendering performance. And at the end of the day, like I said, well, this is something that you're not going to see, but this is something you're going to feel at the end of a project. We got some great quotes, and just before talking about the quotes, I would like to really thank our alpha and beta testers. Some of them are right now on the session, and you know who you are. You gave us tremendous amount of help on this project. Without having you helping us, well, it would have been impossible to do, because regressing the multiple workflows in Flame, I mean, is complicated. And we were able to get not only production value from these sites, but also replication step for issues. And that's, priceless. I mean, when you do that kind of big change, it's very important to have the collaboration of your user. And we have, as we know, dedicated a user who were able to bring, in fact, this product into their production pipeline and ensure that we were going in the right direction. So Ton was one of the testers on the Linux platform and was quite happy with the work we've done. So I'm sure you can read it by yourself if you want to. You have seen our good friend Brian talking about the numbers he got from his Mac Studio. So he was testing the metal part of the products. And as you remember, in Flame 2024, we introduced the Apple Silicon native support, which was in some cases adding 20 to 30% faster rendering and interaction with the application. So this update, it adds another level of performance and interactivity in our products. So I think Brian was quite happy with what we was able to get with the beta. I've also put some good words about these things, right? So it's important. And of course, update 1 is multiple things, right? Because you get the Vulkan Metal, you also get the new operating system, you get the new workstations, you get the new graphic cards. So the ecosystem has been lifted up, meaning that we can get a lot of good performance out of these technologies put together. So it's not only the software, the hardware, all these things, really the sum of all these, which multiplies the capabilities you can do with our products now. But I showed you some good quotes, right? But the really important quotes that I like to hear is what, in fact, Peter put last week on Logik. And this one liner, in fact, is really summarizing what we've done. And at the end, this is what you should be able to see, right? So in one of his use case, well, his render time is now down to 230 from 4 minutes. So at the end, if you can render faster, it means you're going to be able to spend more time doing more iteration for your customer, probably do more effects because you can render faster. And at the end, everybody will be happy with the quality of the production value we can add to the various content you will create with our products.
It is a great quote. And before we move on, I just wanted to highlight and ask and make sure that everybody knows just how long this feature was in development for. I think we talked a little bit before. You said it's been in development for 5 years. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. So, and that is in fact the port from OpenGL to the two frameworks. But keep in mind that some years ago, around 2012, 2013, we went with what we call the Flame Reactor at that time, which was the port of the CPU tool to the GPU pipeline. So everything in Flame is now using GPU. So we had to go through all these big projects, which are big blocks, to bring that technology to get together, in fact, in the current product. So yes, it's a 5 years-ish for moving to the frameworks, then some years before to move to CPU to GPU. So, I mean, these are long-standing projects, showing that Autodesk care about this product line, because you don't invest in that kind of effort if you don't care about it. Sometimes people are questioning, how is Flame in Autodesk? Well, we are good. So, and that update shows you, in fact, the output of all these, how these work. So we were quite happy, in fact, to be able to release that this year, so we can bring that into your production environment and enjoy, in fact, something you're not going to see, but something you're going to feel.
That's a great achievement. Awesome work.
We are looking forward your benchmark result, guys. So please, create threads just like Brian has done on Logik, and we want to see. We don't publish benchmarks. We have a lot of benchmarks. So every day we benchmark the application, the different subsystems. It's really a nerdy benchmark. What we do, it's not production benchmark. So we kind of get the data of a given process over time, and we see that we gain in some cases a very, very big improvement of speed. But of course, at the end of the day, that means nothing if in your workflow it doesn't work. So please play with the update and let us know how better it is in your environment, so we can better understand the work we've done. But we have a good feeling, and the feedback from beta sites was quite positive. We have a good feeling that what we've done will help you tremendously, especially in the context if you were to move to the newer hardware, being workstation with PCI X5, GX5, and then of course the graphic card. But again, even if you have a legacy configuration, you're going to see in some case dramatic, positively that dramatic fast speed. So that was the graphic framework. So let me go through all the other capabilities on my side. So ShotGrid, very subtle thing, but as you might have seen some time ago, we moved ShotGrid from its legacy authentication to the integrated Autodesk authentication. So this is something you're going to see with update 1. So when you're going to log in, the login page will be a bit different. So don't be scared. This is normal. This is part of the rebranding of all the backend thing with ShotGrid. So you're going to be able to use the authentication from Autodesk to move to your ShotGrid project. So super straightforward, and you're not going to see more than a user interface change when you're going to log in. Backburner is something that if you are doing background job, background export, background caching, and also using Burn on a centralized, on server with a centralized Backburner manager. So make sure to upgrade to the latest Backburner manager. This is something you get for free when you install Flame. But yes, if you have a centralized Backburner, just like many users like Alan has, well, you need to upgrade your centralized Backburner manager so you get the new capabilities and fixes. So we have done many fixes in the update. So we have improved error messaging in case of issue with networking, stability issue when network interface are not active. setup related to losing some data with the burn setup when the task was not completing. But one of the big thing is really the memory consumption when Backburner is running for multiple days with a lot of jobs. So that has been fixed. So just that, I mean, would in fact make you upgrade your centralized server or manager. So please get current with Backburner 2024. On the AVIO side, we up some of the technologies that we are using in the product. So very often when you get AGA driver update and you want to use it with other third-party products, let's say on your Mac or on your Linux system, well, you would in fact go to AGA website to download the latest 16.2.5, which is a minor bug fix update. So there's no firmware update with this config, but it's good to have the latest and greatest. And it's compatible with the last release of Flame, our April release. So just go on the AGO website to install the Mac version of it, and you're going to be able to enjoy the latest and greatest. Many of you, in fact, are moving more and more to HDR workflows, and we've added a feature in Update 1 related to the VPID, so the Video Payload Identifier, which allows from the SDI stream to program the monitor on which you're going to look at the work you are doing. So instead of going through the menus to set SDR, HDR, and select the various function, transfer function, luminance, or range, well, you're going to be able to do that with all the Kona and IO cards we support in the product. So you can have a look at the link on the screen, but it's going to be straightforward. If you were to go in the broadcast preference, as you can see on the screen, so you're going to get the various options on which you're going to be able to set Rec 709 or Rec 2020. So that's going to program the monitor through SDI. Same thing for the various HLG, PQ options, and so on. So this is something quite straightforward, and you're going to be able to use it with Update 1. So we had a similar feature for HDMI, which had an issue which have been reported some time ago. So we also fixed an issue where when you were going from SDR to HDR, so going back to SDR was not setting correctly the transform mode on the display. So we got that by looking at some report from customers. So now you're going to be able to go back to none, which is SDR, and you're going to be able to see the signal. So if you were to use an HDMI display like the Pro Art display you can see on the screen, this is the one I use in fact at home. Then you would be able to see the whole color management things to be automatically set when you set the option in Flame. So there's a QR code here. It's also working with many other brands of HDMI displays. So when you have HDR capabilities, very often you get the HDMI HDR signaling option also in these things. So please have a look and let us know how you like these capabilities. On the Blackmagic side, we also updated to desktop video 12.5. So on macOS and Linux, again, minor bug fixing, but it's good to have the latest and greatest, especially if you have Resolve working on your system. You want to have the latest desktop video drivers. So go on Blackmagic desktop, and download your installer for macOS and Linux, and you're going to be able to use all your production products with the hardware and the drivers. And of course, we also added an update to NDI, which is a very straightforward update, so you should not see any issues with these. So as you can see, all the way you can provide content to your customers have been updated to the latest technology in this update. Color management, something that we all have to go through, because as we know these days, everybody has its own color space, and everybody needs to understand how to set color management to avoid confusion in your production pipeline. So we have done many things in this update. So there's the addition of new transform supporting the raw media from Sony Venice cameras. So we've added the various color transforms for S-Gamut 3, C-Linear, or .cine, which is the log, in fact, the color space representing. So we add the same color spaces for the legacy Cine Alta camera line for the F5 F55, but these transforms were not accurate enough for the Venice. So the Venice and the Venice 2 require their own transform, and there's automatic detection when you're going to go in Media Hub and you're going to browse the raw files from the camera. So as you can see on the screen, this is the addition of the various color transform, and automatically we detect the camera type and we put the right transform, so you don't have to think about it. It's going to be straightforward. Uh, we also took the opportunity to revisit a bit the color transform workflow with Sony RAW. So we were providing legacy color spaces, but most of the time we're going to work with slog3 S gamut 3 scene. So that's the option that we use now by default, which is also the same default value you get in other DCC finishing and grading application. And if you have a need to go to other color spaces, well, you would use the color management capabilities of MediaHub to do that. So this is the legacy user interface you had when you were going to the format specific for Sony RAW, and this is in update 1. We removed, in fact, the left side option for the color management, because MediaHub has all the technology you need to for setting the right color space. But like I said earlier, the automatic detection should probably be good enough for most of the workflows that you want to do with these the content of these cameras. Media IO. So let's see what we have done in this release. So we introduced ARRI SDK 7 some time ago, last summer, with the ARRI Alexa 35. And we, of course, work closely with ARRI to make sure we are always looking, using the latest and greatest technology. So they have made some change to their recording. So you can record monochrome. So we can now, in fact, support these files in the update, so we can automatically detect if the file has been set to black and white when being recorded. But we also have an option in case with in case the header does not contain the right information. We have seen legacy, well, not legacy, but pre-production SDK files which has been recorded without this metadata. So in a case where you would not see the black and white content from an ARRI content, well, you would be able to enforce it by using a user interface into MediaHub. We'll see that in a moment. And we also added, update the codex high density encoding SDK, which again will be able to be used for monochrome content recorded as ARX files or ARRI MXF. So you have different options that you're going to be able to use in MediaHub. So the content you're going to be provided with is going to be able to be used as expected by your customers. There was an OpenEXR SDK update, which has been done for Apple Silicon. So something that you would not see issue in our product, but still we want to be update. We want to use the latest and greatest SDK from our technology partners. So you can have a look at the link on the page if you want to see the GitHub list of changes, but it's really minor changes. But again, being up to date with these SDK is important for us and you at the end of the day. Something we've done, and as you would expect, well, every day while we take our first coffee, we go on Logik because we like to see the different threads on the forums and to see, are there things, that because as we know, the post-production landscape is moving so fast. So it's good to, keep updated with all your posts. And there was one post, in fact, related. Posted some time ago related to OpenEXR multi-layer troubles. And when I've seen that, while taking my first coffee, I was kind of, what is this thing? So, and then I was able to discover that our friend Miles had issues seeing black frames in some passes coming from render from CG. So, which kind of was troubling because you don't expect, not seeing the media when you import that in MediaHub. Our friend Adam, in fact, as a wise man and an influencer, told the world to talk about this issue to support, which he has done, right? So the customer went to support, he provided files, and then we were able to have a look in our application. So what we've seen, in fact, and for the one who don't know or don't work with OpenEXR very often, well, when you go in MediaHub and you browse these clips, which are multi-channels, you get the multi-icon on the clip, which if you double-click on the icon, we're going to show the expanded view, showing not only the beauty, but also all the passes. And this is what we were able to see. Well, nothing seemed to be a problem looking at the files. So we brought in, so we had a look at the metadata. So we see it's a multi-part because they are multi-flavor of OpenEXR. OpenEXR 1 is single part, meaning that all the passes will be in one pass. So you need to go through all these if you want to access one of the part. But then OpenEXR came up some years ago with multi-parts, which is OpenEXR 2.0, which is which is supported in all the DCC products from the 3D renderer to desktop compositing and finishing. And then we were able to see that this file was using the right generation of OpenEXR 2 row, so it's a multi-part, so which should be, working as expected. So we went to batch, we loaded the file, and then we moved to the frame, which has a problem, and then we've seen this black frame, which is not something that we were expected. So then, what I've done, I imported as a single frame every frame of the sequence to see well what is the configuration of the AOV in the file. And as you can see on the screen, for the global elimination, the GI part, they are located in different parts. So from frame 1 to frame 2, 3, 4. So that's why, in fact, looking at the file sequence and going frame by frame, we were not able to resolve, in fact, the global elimination pass because it was set to another part, which is bad. So we discussed with the Maxion people. So Redshift renderer has been used to create this file, so they have no clue up to now what is the issue. But then we decided to put some fixes in Flame and of course, since you have Eagle Eye, you have seen that not only global elimination but other passes also were not following the right part on every frame. So at the end, it's a mess. So, but we made a fix for the mess, but the fix require a new option in Media Hub. So we have added, in fact, two new options. So the option on the right, which says use EXR multi-part layer, is in fact the option you need to disable. So when it's enabled, the moment you're gonna browse multi-parts or OpenEXR, you're gonna get the same performance as you were getting in previous release. So this is the default mode, which mimics what we had before. But if you enter into problem like the file we got from Miles, well, you would want to disable this button. Of course, as you know, any option in Media Hub are saved as a project basis. So that means if you were to leave the application and come back with this option would be persisted. So, and then you would be able to load the file, browse the file, and then see the expected result for AOV changing parts over frame, which is something that you should never see. But if that happens, now you have a way to bypass this problem. This is an import option, meaning that even if you imported with the wrong option, you can change your mind by going into the clip option in the application, and then you could change it, and then we're going to be able to honor the new setting in your clips. We also took the opportunity to add another option, as you can see on the left side, to include a part name, which, as you can see in the name of every part, we have the sub image for everything. So maybe you only want to see the name of the AOV. So if you were to disable this option, well, you would see only the name of the AOV, which I think that would be the way I would use the capabilities. But then you have option if the name of the part is important in your workflow. So guess and with all these changes, we were able to bring in the files and not see black frames anymore or missing AOV anymore with this thing. So please, if you have these files, let us know because we really want to narrow down with Maxion people to ensure that thing doesn't happen. But if it does happen, because production might create files, well, you have new buttons and new options to solve that thing. Another challenge we had and was related to multi-span clips. So as we know, digital recording means sometime in the morning you can start the camera and then stop it some hour after. If you are like David Fincher, who likes to record the performance of his actors and actresses, well, long recording sometimes happens. And the Sony cameras have, and some other cameras too, have multi slots for S/X cards. So, but the Sony camera recording XAVC allows to have very long recording over multiple cards. And we had an issue about that in our product. We supported multi-span clip at the time of XDCam long time ago, but it seems the specification has changed when XABC has been released some years ago. We implemented it thinking it was working, but then it was not, and we got report from some long-form finishing site that it wasn't working as expected. So this is what we had in previous release of Flame when browsing captures of clips recorded over two cards. So the first segment was in fact on the first card, and the second one was on the second card. And the duration of the first clip, of course, is not the sum of all the parts, which meaning that if you were to import that in Flame, you would never be able to get the full duration, except you would need to bring all the clips, edit them together, maybe hard commit and create a new source. But I mean, this is tedious. You don't want to do that. So in update 1, we fixed that. So now you're going to be able to browse your multi-card capture. And in the first card, where you have in the card where you have the first segment, we're going to show you the full duration of the clip, and that will allow you to work with these clips. Strangely, when investigating this issue, we've seen that not a lot of finishing, grading products support these workflows, meaning that if that kind of job comes to flame, well, you're going to be able to do that, and maybe your competitors will not be because they don't have the technology to do that. On the media export side, and when we discuss the 2024 release in April, we talk about the great Apple Silicon infrastructure we had to work with, and when we release, we had a performance issue related to ProRes encoding on Apple Silicon computers. We had no time to fix that in the context of 2024, and we decided to really investigate that with the help of Apple in the context of Update 1. And as you can see on the screen, number from Update 3 and 2024. So now we are even faster than the pre-Apple Silicon using Apple APIs infrastructures in our product. So that means when you're going to export or even cache or render, if your intermediates are Apple ProRes, well, you're going to render faster. Again, that plus the native Apple Silicon, plus the Metal work we've done, I think it means that the Update 1 is the production release you need if you want speed, right? So please, again, let us know on Logik about your success. But since not everybody, in fact, does timer when you export, because very often you would export in background, so you don't even notice it. But foreground export, you might notice it. So your export for the various flavor of ProRes on Apple Silicon will be faster. There's a great workflow that we introduced some years ago with the CineX tool from Cinedeck, which allows you to overwrite part of a master, a QuickTime master. So let's say you have your ProRes 444 master, your 1 hour show with the multiple tracks of audio. I mean, it's ready to go to air, and then your producer tells you, well, we made a typo in one of the titles, so nobody wants to regenerate a 1 hour clip. For file sequence deliverable, it's easy to do that. I mean, you just replace some of the AXR or DPX files for a given range. But for a QuickTime, it's a bit more complicated. And CineX tool, which you can have a look at on the screen, which run on macOS, it's a nice software on which you can just reinsert part of that. So now the ProRes file we encode are compatible with CineX tool, meaning that you're going to be able to overwrite with their product just a part without messing up the file. So this is a great workflow when you need to modify very often multiple version with some slightly modified text or VFX shots the day of your deliverable for multiple language, multiple resolution, and social media, whatever. So have a look, and you're going to be able to do the right export in Update 1. We have also got some feedback from QC system that our timecode track, which was located between video and audio track, was not accepted for some QC system. So we fixed that too. So the last track of the clip now will be the timecode track. So again, many of you never heard about these issues. Same for us. But then we got a report and we made a fix in Update 1. Conform. I talked to you about the Sony XAVC span clip. So, of course, if you cannot import footage correctly, well, when you were to get a conform structure from, let's say, Avid, well, you would not be able to conform these files because in previous release, well, we were showing the multi-segments as multiple clips. There's a workflow in Avid Media Composer. So by default, Media Composer treat the span XAVC clip the same way as we did in the past. But if you were to install the free Nablet XAVC XDCAM AMA plugin, well, you would be able to browse the various XAVC cards, and then you would see the continuous clip. So if you were to go on the link on the screen, there's a link for the Nablet plugin. So, but of course, this is not something you mostly know because very often creative editorial is done somewhere else of your facility. So if there are problems, well, they need to download the plugin. But the long form people are aware of the extent of the plugin, and then they can produce that. So when we were importing an AF in our products coming from a Media Composer with the plugin, well, this is what we were getting. And on the top track, you get the reference. And on the bottom track, you get the AF imported in Flame. And as you can see, the duration is really not the same, which is a kind of a bugger if you want to do finishing. So, of course, Update 1 not only brings in the content, but also fixes the AF parser so we can get the right content from Avid. So, again, it's another thing that you're going to be able to use in update 1 when you have these kind of project using long recording with XAVC from Sony cameras. The good thing with these workflows is the XAVC MXF file contains multiple metadata we can use for Conform. So as you would expect, you don't use source timecode and tape name for confirming these files. You would use the timecode, of course, but it also has the media UID. The unique identifier is something that comes into the recording of the file. It's brought in while using the AMA plugin in Avid. It's part of the AF sequence, and then it goes into the AF. And then when Flame import the sequence, well, we know about the UID, so then we can easily match the content with the timecode and the UID, and then you will automatically get your conform. What Avid does well for this format, it gives you a marker that tells you every transition for the multi-segment clip. So then you know where the segment has been stopped and then started for the next segment. So this is what you're going to get when you're going to conform these XAVC files from Sony cameras from an AF conform. Like I said earlier, not all DCC finishing grading applications support these things. So if you were to go in Resolve or Baselight, well, you would not be able to conform these AF because they don't support the multispan. So again, that's an advantage for Flame family products to work closely with Avid in these finishing workflows. Premiere AF, and if you remember some old conversation we had on different Logic thread or even Logic events, I always tell you not to use Adobe Premiere AF because they don't contain much information and sometimes they are buggy. So, and even Adobe, in fact, was telling their user, well, probably you should use an XML instead of an AF for conforming because you get more content and it's more stable. And lately, we got, after NAB, in fact, we got some samples who were crashing Flame. And we were kind of puzzled because we don't like the application to be crashed when we import an AF. So after investigation, we've seen that the opacity effect, which can be used either as an effect or a part of the transition, the dissolve transition, was causing issue with our parser. So we fixed that. And at the same time, we've added support for the opacity effect. So like I said, I'm not recommending you to import Adobe Premiere AF for finishing workflows. But if you were to, well, at least in this update, you would get a more stable option. And sometimes, and very often, in fact, you don't choose which metadata format you're going to get. So if you get AF, well, now you can say, well, I'm going to be able to try it out and not have a stability issue with these files, which is always great because nobody likes to, crash when importing files. So opacity issue with keyframes is something, as you can see now in Premiere in this version. So I have some keyframe, and when we're going to conform this content in Flame, well, you're going to get a comp effect with transparency. Transparency being the invert of opacity. So we have 75% here and 25% in Premiere. So don't be confused. This is the same thing, except that the name of the tool is different. And of course, the value is inverted because it's a different parameter. But at the end of the day, you have more data to conform. You don't have to manually recreate these effects when coming from Premiere and finish that in our products. And last but not least, we have made some updates to the Tangent panels. Our friend at Tangent, that we met at NAB, because we like to meet our technology partners, told us that they were releasing the Tangent Hub 185, which is automatically installed on our Linux products. For macOS, you need to follow the link on the screen. And they came up with a new feature named the Warp Engine. And the Warp Engine is a great way to define functionality or to map functionality on the panel, on a button, or on a knob using the user interface location of a button. So the XY position is used, and when you work with the Warp Engine, you can define mapping, which will emulate a button click in the UI. And when a field has been clicked, the fact you can map that value to a knob. And I'm sure many of you will play with that feature. I've played with it when it has been released. It's quite cool. There's a limitation which is related to the fact that it's emulating a button click, meaning you won't be able to have a workflow where you can dial multiple fields at the same time because the mouse, of course, does not allow to click on 3 fields at the same time and enter different values. But still, I'm sure people like Andy Davis, who really like to play with the Tangent panel in different environments, will probably jump on the Warp Engine and find great workflows in our product. So if you want to know more about these functionalities, there's a great video on YouTube made by Tangent. It's 11 minutes that gives you a training about how to use that with the various panels. So the element panel, the arc panel, and the wave one. So you can create your own mapping, which will be saved on top of our mapping as a operating system user base. So you're going to be able to go through and expand your mapping with the Warp engine. And I would be curious to know what you're going to be able to come up with. So please get back to us on Logik and let us know, what you can do as far as magic with that and how it changes positively your workflow. We have also added new mapping for update one, so that's why it's very important when you will install update one to create a new user profile. So you're going to be able to get not only the keyboard shortcut that we might have added in the product, but also the tangent mapping, tangent panel mapping. So we've added the PyBox. Something that Fred will talk later, source PyBox, scope and scope settings. You are able to disable the scope, metadata overlay, same thing, and same thing for the overlays. So all these things are now part of the tangent panel mapping. So these have been mapped to the waves. As you can see on the screen here, we have we have used the right F buttons. That could be handy to be able to quickly move to these controls. Same thing, yeah, for these controls for the player. The wave on the button module, we have added these things, and same thing for the arc panel. So these are the new mappings. So like I said, make sure to create a user profile, and you're going to be able to use them in the application. And that summarizes update one for me. Is there any question or?
So far, so good. There was one question, but I think we'll get to it in the patrons chat for now. It was about tensor cores with the GPU side, but
Yes.
that is a lot to cover for a .1 release. I'm surprised.
We were also surprised because sometimes things bubble up, right? So but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we're quite happy with the updates. A good way to introduce yourself not only to this update but also to 2024, because like I said earlier, many people wait some time, So the 2024 also added its load of the capacities and technologies. So well, looking forward to get your feedback on Logik and see how that changed your life.
Yeah, great. I'm in that boat where our upgrade is happening for this dot release, so I'm excited to be one of those people as well. It is now time to say hello to Fred. Hello, Fred. Thank you for waiting so patiently.
Hello. We still have some.
I will now share your screen.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch to Flame so you can share my screen, and we can start looking at metadata overlay. This is a feature that we have introduced in Flame 2024. So I don't think that we're okay. So I can see that we are seeing my Flame now. So this is a feature that we have introduced in 2024 in the player. We had a lot of good feedback on it, but also some requests. So we have implemented many of those in the update one. I'm going to start in the player with some improvements and tweaks that we have done. So the first one, we had some people saying that the metadata overlay was actually displayed below the overlay, such as the save titles or the letter box. So we have changed that so the overlay have priority and are displayed on top. We have also made it so if you have some information that are fetching the audio information of your sequence and you do not actually have audio on a clip, we will no longer display those information, and we can display now the metadata overlay on top of a audio only clip. There's a small twist there, obviously. You see here that I'm using the same preset that I would usually use for a video. But if you remember from 2024, you have to go inside the setup and actually switch the layers so they are looking at the audio. So I've created here another preset that looks only at my audio information. This is why now I have the proper information. So I did that by going to edit setup and setting all of my layers so they look at the audio track. Another small change that I wanted to highlight quickly, we've changed it here and we've only did it for burning metadata so far. It might come to other tools later on, but we change how we're dealing with the font. So instead of having to go inside the font browser to always select some attributes such as bold and font, you can now do that like you would do just like in any other software, where you can just say, I want my segment name to be in bold, in italic. Let me switch that here, in bold, in italic, or add a underline to it. And finally, something that I won't be able to really show you because I don't have a broadcast monitor, but we've added a switch in the preferences for the broadcast monitor here, where you can elect to display the metadata overlay in the broadcast monitor or not. By default, it is enabled, so it will be displayed in both your graphics monitor and in the broadcast, but you can disable it so you only have it on your own monitor, and for example, customers who are in your room are not seeing the overlay like you do. Next thing that we did for the overlay is we've added support for it in batch. Okay, so you will see here that in my controls at the right, I have the metadata overlay icon. It is grayed out right now because my schematic view is selected, so you won't be able to enable it if you have the animation, the schematic view, the scopes. But if you select a viewport with an image, you will be able to open or display the overlay. The overlay is actually independent between the player and the in batch. So if I switch this one, for example, to time code, and I go back to my timeline, you can see that I still have my frame preset that is enabled, but in batch, the same preset for the metadata overlay is actually shared amongst all the viewport, but also all the batch groups and all the batch effects that you have. So if I were to switch to a separate batch group here, you see that I still have my timecode preset. And if I switch this one to frame and come back to my original setup, this has been changed to frame. The overlay though is viewport based, so the status of the overlay. So if I were to switch to a 3 up here, and let's say that I select a separate clip, and on this one you will see that I have a context. So you can see that the information still is really based on what is being displayed inside the viewport. So I could elect to have it enabled only on one viewport, but I can also display the overlay on multiple separate clips. What is really nice about that is that when you have a clip node, you're gonna go fetch really the same information as you would do in the timeline tab in the player. We had feedback, for example, in the Logik event that we had at the beginning of the year in LA. There's a user that was saying, I would like to be able to actually see the frame information of a clip when I navigate in batch, rather than only seeing the frame or timecode information from the batch group itself. So now this is something that is possible, since you can actually display the metadata overlay on top of your viewport. If you select a node, so just like any node that is not really like a clip or a write file, you will get only the information that is actually relevant. So in that case, it will be the information from the batch group itself. But if you select the write file, you will have actually the same by default. So only the information that is available from the write file itself. But we added a way here that you can see in the write file to display the overlay information of a different node. So here with the overlay button, what you're gonna do is you will actually enable the rendering of the overlay inside the clip. Okay, and we're gonna try that quickly. And then there's a drop down where you can say display the information from the write file or display the information from a context view. So in that case, I've set the context view on the clip, and I can go and display the information from the clip on my render. And if we were to render just a frame with the add to workspace here, we're gonna switch on the overlay, and you will be able to see in that clip here that the overlay were actually burned.
That's some great control.
So I don't think there are any questions on this. So we can continue to, let me just, Jeff, I have a small issue here. So let me just fix that. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the other request that we had quite frequently about this feature is the same possibility but on media export. Oh, sorry, I just forgot one small thing that I just thought about. Those controls are available in the Python API. So if you are building your write-file node and you want to build something with it, you will be able to do so from the API. And then if I select the same clip, I go to export, you will see that now we have a new section that is include metadata overlay, in which you can add the enable the burning of the overlay in your clip, select the preset of your choice that you want to use, and those controls are not part of the Python API. So for the one who knows for the in the Py exporter, because they are included in the format preset. And when you use the PY exporter, you are actually specifying a preset. So that would be the way to automate that. So if we look at some of the presets that I've created here, you can see that I can select the one with time code. I can select the one with frame, they're gonna switch. And I can also select a preset I've created using a metadata overlay preset that no longer exists. And in that case, we will show you in red that there's a problem and that the preset no longer exists. So if you try to export that clip, you will see that we will warn you. You can still continue, but there won't be any metadata overlay, or you can cancel and actually select another preset. The same happens in batch, as where if I select a context that is empty, so that no longer exists, you will get the same red outline to warn you that that the information cannot be fetched because the source is missing. So we will continue in batch, and I'm gonna switch to another batch root here, and we're gonna talk about changes that we've made to Resize. So the first thing that you will notice is that in the node bin, we have renamed actually the tool, so you can see it here. So we've renamed it to resize and crop everywhere where you can actually do either, which means that in the timeline it's still called resize because you cannot really crop the clip in this. Okay, you can only like specify a region, but you cannot change the resolution of the output. So if we look at the UI, you're gonna see that before you have the crop lock output button that was in the destination. We've cleaned up the UI a little bit. We've tried to make it a little bit easier and faster to select what you want to do. So we have on the left the resize and the crop menu, and the batch node will actually adjust its name depending on what is selected. So at the top here, you can see that I'm cropping. If I switch to resize, it's going to mention that I'm resizing. For the crop, we've done a lot of little tweaks to make sure that we are no longer introducing any filtering artifacts when we are cropping an image, to make sure that we really preserve the pixel that is from the original clip in the output of the resize and crop node. To do so, we made two let's say, major changes that are not big, but more important changes. So the first one is that when you manipulate the crop box in your front view, we will no longer end up in weird or decimal values other than 0 or 0.5. And we are also using the same limitation that we have throughout the software in regards to the width based on the bit depth. So that means that when you're going to manipulate this, we will increment by value of 4 if you're in 8-bit, and if you are, for example, it's 16-bit, it's going to be by step of 2. So those two changes will make sure that we are no longer introducing any filtering artifacts. One of the other change that we've done in that region is the introduction of the pixel ratio button, which by default will adjust itself, and you shouldn't really have to use it or modify it. We've still put it in case you are in a strange situation where you might need it. But what it does is that when you actually crop a anamorphic clip, it will switch itself to pixel ratio on. So we use the information from the anamorphic clip to properly calculate the output. That used to work before on anamorphic clip, but it wasn't working on square pixels. So we had fixed the later case, but we broke the anamorphic case. So now both are working with this button. So if you disable it, you see that the image will be squeezed. And if you actually do it on a clip that is a square pixel, the button is disabled by default. So you shouldn't really have to mess with this. We'll move actually to resize. In here, the things that I want to point out is that in preferences now, in the tools and timeline effects tab, you have controls to actually define the precision and crisp and softness of your resizing filter. And you also have another section for batch and BFX in which you can decide which are the mode that you want to select by default. And as we have renamed the crop lock output to crop in the menu here, we have also renamed throughout the software the center crop option to center. So there's no ambiguity between the two. Now the bigger, maybe the one thing that was really a topic and requested quite a lot was the addition of some more modes to actually resize. So if we look at the destination here section, you're going to see that we have a new drop down at the top, which is resolution list, in which you will have actually the same controls that you had before. But if you open it, you're going to see two new modes, which are adaptive and scaling presets. Scaling presets is pretty obvious. You can see here that I had a UHD, but I set it to half and it's now HD. You have some quick setups here that you can set to quarter or half, or I should probably switch that to fill so it's a little bit more evident. And also you can set like double or enter your own value. So you could set a third here by using the numeric field. And you have the adaptive mode where you're gonna have access to either the width or the height, and we will calculate the other value based on the ratio. So in that case here, if I wanted to just scale down my image a little bit to a specific value, but I wouldn't want to actually calculate what would be the height, I will just scale it down like this, and I'm gonna have the value calculated for me. And if I do this the other way, I'll get the same result, but with the height calculating the width automatically. If you select a generator, okay, so let's say a color source, we will actually give you access of those modes, But in the case of a node like Resize, where you have an input, we're going to use the information from the source to do those operations. If they do not exist, we will still let you switch these, and we're going to use the settings set in the resolution list. So if I were to set to this and then go to scaling preset, you'll get half of that value. So it might be handy if you want like half the resolution of something and you don't want to calculate it. The adaptive mode and the scaling presets are available everywhere you have access to the resolution controls. That includes obviously export and import. So if we go to export and we go in show advanced option, you're gonna see here that in my resolution section, I have access to the modes. What's gonna happen if you have multiple clips from different resolution is that the settings that you have selected will be applied relatively to all the clips. So if you select 50%, it's gonna end up being 50% of each sources, even though in here we show you only the information from the first source. Same thing for the adaptive mode. And in import, you're gonna have access, but the little twist here is that you're gonna actually have the information on the preview panel. So in here you have the clip res. So let's say I would to select this clip here, which was the import. I didn't show it, but it was the import that I had done before to actually show you that we were able to burn the metadata overlay on media export. So you can see that this clip here is on file 1920 by 1080, but I could go here to a scaling preset and select double, and it's gonna show me that I'm gonna import this in the Ultra HD here. And finally, just a small thing in regards to resizing. If we go to the timeline in here, you're gonna see here that I have a BFX that is coming from a different sequence, and the resolution was not the same. So I ended up with a resize, timeline FX being added because it had to be resized to the the resolution of the destination clip, and we added the possibility at the BFX level here to actually reset it to the sequence resolution. So it's like if we were taking the resize and putting it inside the BFX, but that's gonna get rid of the resize timeline FX for you. And if you go in the BFX, you're gonna have a resize on your BFX output.
That's really cool. I had no idea about that one. That's a great one.
So I'm gonna switch back to my batch to show you some of the, let's say, smaller enhancements that we've made. So in the FX node, you knew already about the user and the project node bins in which you could save your own smaller setups. What we've done is we've added a shared node bin. So the setups are saved in Autodesk shared. And that allows you to have setups that will be actually available to all users and all projects on a workstation. You could also create symbolic links to a central location to distribute the same setups to all machines at once. That could be quite handy. And the setups are versioned. So, for example, if you were to create setups in Flame 2026 and then you share that with somebody, but the other person has a Flame 2025, then the setups will just appear. They won't appear, sorry, in the node bin. So we will only show you the setups that you can actually load. So if we look at the share bin that I had here, I just created something with an alphabetical order just to show you that we have also added the a mean to delete some setups. So I could select my Go node here, you should see that there's a outline around it. You can now delete it if you no longer want it. And we can actually also easily reorder the nodes in the bin. So I could actually select my effect. And when you grab it, just like as if you were to drag it to the schematic, we will actually let you drop it inside the bin itself. So you could just reorder your effects like this and put it in the order of your preference. And there's always the sort button that will actually bring them back in a alphabetical order. The one thing that I want, maybe the little, let's say, a warning or tip, is that once you have crossed the middle and you are actually going to the viewport, you cannot come back and reorder it at that moment. You need to just redo the operation because the node is gone. Everybody can delete actually a node, Stephen, from the node bin, not only the owner. You could always, if that would be a problem, you could always set the directory to read only, so nobody can delete from Flame from the node, but only the administrator can do it from a terminal. Another small enhancements that we've made on a feature that we added in 2024. So we added the possibility to copy information from one node to the other with the paste special. So in here, I could go to space special and select which information I want to copy. And we add the custom mode where you can actually say, I want to copy my two timecode information. What is new in update 1 is that we allow you to create presets. So I could actually have something that is timecode like this. And when you go here to your Play Special, you're going to have access to your presets and quickly copy your timeline information. A quick note about the shortcut editor. We did some minor tweaks just to improve the overall workflow there. The first one is that now it's in a window just like any other, so you can actually move it. I'm on a smaller screen, so it doesn't move that well, but on a wider screen, it's helpful to actually select buttons for which you want to add shortcuts. If you look at the list, we have gotten rid of the number column. We've replaced it on the left with the category, and by default, we are sorting by category. We have also added a mean to filter your research. So if I type keyframe, by default, I will only see the shortcut that have keyframe on there. I can clear with the little X here. And if I type something that has no correspondence, I'm going to be warned. And if I were to change a shortcut, so just assign something, before you would have to set, make sure that you would save them and then close. Now you are just changing it, setting your shortcut, and we're going to save them when you close the shortcut editor. And very, very quickly, just a few mention about three things. I won't like demo them too much, but just so you are aware, because they were a request on Flame Feedback. Stephane mentioned it. We've added a source PyBox FX. So for those of you who are taking advantage of the BLG PyBox, it will allow you to actually load your grade before the resize and the time warp. We have also added a mean to collapse the audio tracks. So if you see here, the important thing here, you see that I have a group, and when you collapse the track, we will actually warn you that collapse tracks are locked, so no operation is performed on them while they are hidden. So this is true for all type of information. you have a mean to say, do not show this message again. Okay, and then we're gonna collapse. We will still give you a little preview of the length of the audio tracks, but if you were to perform an operation, it won't be applied. And we made a special case for every timing information or operation. So if I were to actually trim that shot, which was a sync group, then you're gonna be warned that you had a sync group, and that you made a modification on that could affect the sync, but that was not applied since the audio tracks were locked. And the last one is a quick mention in modular keyer. We have added some nodes. We have added the automat. We have added the posterize, and we have also added the possibility to drop a blur node. Oops, sorry, I did it wrong. On a matte blend like this. And this is it, Jeff, for update 1.
That was amazing. Every one of those is so darn useful. Anyone who has had like a 5.1 mix in the timeline is going to be jumping for joy that they can collapse that and work on their timeline. Man, the resize ones, I shouldn't have been as excited as I was about the resize changes, but I'm so excited.
But it's like you said, it's the small stuff that like doesn't save you a ton of time, but that you have to do them so often that they in the end they're gonna save you some a good amount of time, because you won't have to do them like multiple times every day.
Absolutely. And man, I'm embarrassed to say it, but a lot of the time I would actually jump over to After Effects when I wanted to do my my aspect ratio calculations, just because their interface was nicely able to be updated easily. So I'm so happy to not have to do that. I mean, it was probably probably could have used a calculator anyway, but it's great to see it in Flame, and it's great to stay in Flame, and it's a long time coming, but it's simple, but it's so elegant and wonderful, and I love it. We had a quick question. I think this is a brief one, and I think I know the answer, but I'll just ask. Someone in the chat, I've already forgotten who it was, but someone in the chat wanted to know if T-Click really has changed at all with these resize changes?
T-Click hasn't changed. We did the pay special because it was mainly for 2 reasons. The first one was that it's not easy, let's say, for a new user to figure out that you can like copy metadata with T-Click, right? It's not something that you can discover by yourself. And also T-Click was a all-in-one operation. So you couldn't say, I just want to copy like 1 or 2 metadata, but not the other ones. So T-Click is still there. It's still going to copy all the information from a node onto another one, but the pay special will actually allow you to be a little bit granular in what you are trying to copy.
That makes sense. I think the question was in the context of showing like things like half and double, but when you T-click something onto the resize node, I don't think it wouldn't inherit any kind of double, or it would just probably be custom, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. It all sounds great. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for showing that off. And a big thank you to our friend from outside in Canada, Stephane, who's still outside, still rocking.
Of course, yeah. No rain, no fire. Sorry if we polluted the East Coast last month, because it happened.
Forgive and forget, right?
Thank you.
There was one. Andy was asking. I think this is for you, Fred, because I think you handle this. You carry this mantle, and I think you mentioned it to me the other day. When can we expect to see the user request feedback that you often show? Like, these are the changes that got implemented.
Oh, you mean the post on Logik? Oh, it will come this week for sure, probably tomorrow or Tuesday. Yeah.
Great, awesome. Well, thanks to both of you for being here. I know Jasmin wanted to be here, but he had a last-minute schedule conflict, so he couldn't be here. But thank you so much for your time. We're going to take the last little bit here to close out the show, but I'll see you over on a quick patrons chat for any burning questions that people have. But thank you all so much. I'll see you there.
Thank you.
Bye.
Great. So if you're no stranger to Logik, you know that it is now prize time. Oh, where am I? Here I am. We're going to be giving away some lovely prizes for the people who have signed up for the show. What are we giving away first, Jeff? Well, I'll tell you. First, we're giving away a Logik notebook. So I think I've copied the names over to the sheet. So here we go, and away we go. Who's going to be the lucky winner? Logik notebook. It's none other than Michael Landon. Michael Landon. Congratulations, Logik notebook for you. Next winner will be receiving a subscription to Boris FX Optics. Thank you to Boris FX for that. I just have to find my... Oh my god, what have I done? Here we go for Boris FX Optics. Who's going to be the lucky winner? Oh my god, what am I doing? This window is being unfortunate. Here we go. Boris FX Optics. Jonathan Ames. And I see the chat. Congratulations, Jonathan Ames, on Boris FX Optics. Michael Landon has chosen to give away his prize, so let's see if we can give another one away. Thank you, Michael. We're doubling it and giving it to the next person. Not really, but who will be the lucky winner of a Logik notebook? Logik notebook going to Okan Sanmez. Congratulations, Okan Sanmez. You are the proud owner of a Logik notebook. Lovely, lovely, lovely. We did it. I am just going to go through these last few slides here, everybody, so bear with me. Last few slides are what? Coming up on Logik Live. We got this. We got this. There it is. There it is. Coming up on Logik Live, we have some scheduled shows. They are subject to change, but this is what we have penciled in for now. Sunday, August 13th. So what is that, 2 weeks? 2 weeks? 2 weeks. We're having a little chat with Flame Award 2023 Flame Award winner Soham Rawal, who's going to be breaking down some exciting shots for us. We might sneak another show in between that and this next one, so keep your eyes peeled. But our next scheduled show after that is Sunday, August 27th, where we talk with a recurring guest, Ian Sansevera from Runway ML, to show us what he's been working on in the world of AI. It should be very cool. Very much looking forward to that. If you haven't already signed up with the forum, please head on over and do so at forum.logik.tv. While you're there, why don't you also sign up and head on over to the Logik Discord, where we're having some informal chats and hangouts. This episode of Logik Live will be available on the website later on today. We have some new episodes of the Logik Podcast. Earlier this week, I finished listening to Glenn Teal's chat with none other than Steve Swike. It was really great to hear his story. He's a familiar name and a familiar face in the community. I think he's a great storyteller, and it was a great listen. So take a listen if you're interested. Randy, if you're out there, wherever you are in this world, we did it. Somehow, we did it. We passed his stretch goal of 1920 YouTube subscribers, which is one of his favorite numbers. We hit 1,950 YouTube subscribers, so I guess we're shooting for 2K now. So if you haven't already, of course, please hit that subscribe button. It makes Randy happy when the numbers go up, and how can you say no to that? If you'd like to support what we're doing here on Logik, please become a patron by signing up at patreon.com/LogikTV. Congratulations to the winners of today's giveaway. If you want to swag yourself out, do so at the Logik merch store. Big thank you to Boris FX for sponsoring Logik Live and being here today. Oh, for sponsoring. And if you'd like to save 15% on everything that they make, you can use the code Logik-2023 at checkout. Thank you to AJA for also sponsoring Logik Live. They've been together with Flame since 2006. And a final thank you to Hot Spring, the future of VFX outsourcing, connecting you to other artists from around the world to help you get your projects done. You can find them at thehotspring.com. And that brings us to the end of our lovely show. I think I saw someone say that, oh my God, where's my mouse? I think I saw someone say that my music levels were hot, so let me lower that. But thank you all for being here. Thank you to Fred and Stephane for giving us their time on Sunday of all days. They're joining us over on Zoom here in a few minutes, and I'll start that right away for the Q&A, deeper dive into 2024.1. I'll see the patrons over there. But for now, thank you all so much for being here, everybody. I appreciate you all, and we'll see you next time on Logik Live.